Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
We're working on the 67 GTO today, and I gotta say, this car's been here a little over 1 year, and in between that car and the other car over there that we got, and then miscellaneous jobs in between, we've really come a long way on this, being a one-man operation that I am. All the body work is completely done. It's not paint ready, but it is first block sand ready, and what that means is all the body work is completely finished. This is our first prime job. Once we block it out, we find the small imperfections. We'll go ahead and fix those, spot prime it, and then it'll be paint ready. We got to get this sanded down right here, and then the dash is ready to paint. We'll go ahead and paint the dash. We'll go ahead and paint this while we're at it. All this right here. And we'll probably go ahead and paint the top of the doors as well, so that'll be done. But as far as overall restoration goes, I think we're on a downhill side. It did have body work. It didn't have major body work, but there was body work that had to be done to it. The quarter panels down here, those were replaced, and we had to do the body work on that. That was a little bit tedious to do that. And then, of course, miscellaneous dings and dents throughout the quarter panels. I believe right here, let me get this plastic. This is plastic that I use on my floor when I'm doing body work and priming inside my shop, so I don't get primer on the concrete. And I like to keep that as long as I can, due to the fact that a roll of that stuff now is up to $120. 3 years ago, before the pandemic hit, it was only 45 bucks a roll, so now it has tripled in price. So I try to keep that as long as I can. On this section right in here, there was some metal placed on each side, okay, of the sail panel. The inside of the sail panel, there was a section on each side replaced. And whoever did the metal work on this car, I didn't do it. I'm going to go ahead and say he did a really good job. The floors have been replaced on this car. This is not the original floors, and you can see the metal work on this, just really nice, and did a great job on it. If you look really close, I don't even know if you can see it, but in this area right in here is where those lower quarter panels were replaced. You can't even tell. So the guy did really good work to it, and if he's watching this video, I don't know if he is, I don't know who did it. I just want to tell you that you did a great job on the metal work. He didn't put this back in. This is where our latch goes, so we're going to have to clean all that up. We'll put the latch assembly back in there, spot weld it in. When you put a floor in one of these, that has to be removed. So I do have that piece. I'll put that back in, and I believe once that goes in, all the metal work is done on the car. When we got to the roof of the car and got it stripped to bare metal, we found out that it was hail damaged. The roof was hail damaged really bad. So besides the hood of the vehicle, the roof was the worst in body work on this car. And let me tell you, it took a lot of body work to get that roof looking the way it is. We went ahead and put front and rear suspension on it. You can see that right there. Brand new brake system. If you look through the wheels, you can see front disc brakes. And brand new rear brakes disc, of course. The reason these aren't on the vehicle is because the wheels are too small for the rotors to fit inside, but you can also see underneath that all the suspension has been replaced in the rear end as well. We went ahead and bolted the inner fender wells and the core support on the vehicle. Those have been sandblasted inside and out. These are all original, of course. Everything on this vehicle that is going back on it is original. We have not bought any aftermarket body parts for this car yet. So this is a California car, and I believe it's going to be a beautiful car if we ever get it done. So yesterday I just finished up on the body work on the hood and the fenders. One of the fenders was off of a Tempest, I believe, and the other one is off of Le Mans. And both fenders had rust damage on the bottom over here. And where the rust was in this section here. This is really common. So to save the owner money and to save me labor time, these were replaced at one time, and you can look in here and see that. If you look right down here, you can see where somebody had welded in some steel right here and then replaced the bottom of this. So what I did, instead of tearing all that apart and replacing it with new, since it was already in really good condition, I went ahead and cleaned everything up. I strengthened it up, I re-welded everything, and redid what was already there. We had emblem holes we had to weld up on the fenders, and then on this fender here, it had the shark fin emblems that went up and down right here. We had to weld all those holes up as well. And then on the bottom of this fender, we had some holes we had to weld up and eliminate. It did have minor rust in one of these fenders. I don't know which one. I believe it was this one here. And we went ahead and fixed that, so the minor rust is gone. And other than that, these fenders came out really, really nice, and they're going to look great on the vehicle. The hood itself, we almost ended up throwing the hood away due to the fact that it was extremely hail damaged. But I went ahead and repaired the hail damage on it. It was a several-day job doing that, pulling out the dents, hammer and doweling, and finessing everything back into shape. And the hood came out really, really nice. It's a usable hood now. And I'm not going to guarantee that this hood is flawless 100,000% perfect, but I think that the hood will be fine, and I think it'll all work out once we do the block sanding on it, find the minor imperfections that it might have, and then re-prime the hood and paint it. I think it'll work out and be a hood that will not need replaced. But if the owner wants to replace the hood and he's not happy with it, and I've already explained this to him, he can keep this hood for now, and then later down the line, if he wants to replace it, he can go ahead and do that, because there'll be plenty of paint left over to repaint the hood. The doors were in really good shape. Minor imperfections, you might say, but there was body work to be done on them. I'm really surprised for the age of the car that the doors were actually in that good a shape, and the body work was done to them, and these are ready as the rest of the car is. Then we come to the deck lid. I'm not going to pull all these parts out. We're just doing a random walk around. It was crushed and dented right in this area right here. I don't know what happened. It looked like something fell on it and crushed it in. I went ahead and fixed that. There was minor hail damage on this deck lid as well, up in this corner over here, down in this corner, and then within the middle of it. You can watch that in the videos. And we went ahead and saved the deck lid. The deck lid was in bad condition, but it is in excellent condition now and ready for first block sand, final prime paint situation. So here's a good example of, we're not really that far along with the car yet. There's a lot of minor detail stuff, and not just minor, but major stuff that needs to be done in this car. And here's one of them right here. to really restore this car perfect, the owner is going to have to get all this re-chromed. The chrome on this, you can see the pits. You can see where the chrome is just like right here. It's already starting to peel off. And to do a good restoration and a proper restoration, that type of stuff really needs to be restored back to high quality chrome plating, you might say. And I will say this, that is expensive. That's approximately $250 each to get these right here chrome plated. And then on top of that, you have to send them out and wait a couple months to get them back. So that's just an example of what's going on when you're restoring a vehicle like this. And a lot of people don't realize, and this is the problem that you have. A lot of people don't realize exactly what is involved in restoring a car to the magnitude that we are restoring this to. Besides putting brakes in the car, we had to restore the pedal assembly. That means that the pedal assembly had to come out of the vehicle. We had to send it off to get sandblasted. I don't have a sandblaster. I'm not buying a sandblaster. And then we had to restore the pedals by putting in new bushings where the pedals move on the shafts. That had to all be done. All right? So we had to buy new bushings for that. We had to reassemble it, disassemble it, take it out, and everything else. And this kind of stuff costs money. This is a money operation when it comes to restoration, if that makes any sense. So a lot of people don't have all of the little meticulous type stuff that needs to be done to the vehicle. All they're looking at is that one picture right there of the car in the shape it is now and then finished. They don't understand that all the parts that you have to purchase, here's one of them right here. All right? This is something people don't realize. We got a door hinge. This is a door hinge. This car is a 1967. Add the years up to now, and that's how old it is. From this car being that old, these door hinges have to be replaced. If you don't replace them, the doors will never line up perfect and they won't shut. And here's a good example on this vehicle of what we're talking about when it comes to parts. If you look right here in this area, you're going to see that's a brand new latch assembly. Brand new. And this, when you buy these type of parts, they usually have 2 or 3 different options. You can get the cheapo one or you can get the higher end one. When it's anodized gold like this, specifically on a Mustang car like this is the higher end door latch, all right? You got to replace all the little screws on the latch. You can't use your old nasty screws. They'll be rotted and rusted. To finish the door off, you need to buy the new catch, the latch catch. The old ones are rotted. They're used. They're abused. The bushing that's inside here is worn out. New screws to go along with the new catch. Everything adds up. Everything adds up, and this is what it takes to restore a vehicle. On this particular car right here, the hinges were so worn out on this side, on the right hand, we had to buy brand new hinges, complete. We could not rebuild the old hinges. So we had to rely on the aftermarket parts to be perfectly correct so we can make this door work. To make this door work with the aftermarket hinges and not rehinging the factory hinges took several days, all right? We're not talking about just bolting the hinges on, hanging the door and shutting the door. That isn't how it works. Aftermarket parts are not, what can I say, OEM correct. There's always going to be a flaw in the aftermarket part that you purchase, because if they made it identically 100% exactly accurate as the factory part, they can get sued by the manufacturer of the vehicle. So there's always going to be a flaw somewhere, and it's not going to work perfect. So to make these hinges work took a very long time of stress, alignment, and reconfiguration to make it work. And if you want your car and your door to work like it did with all the aftermarket parts, like this right here, do you see that? That is an extreme restoration job to do that. We're not just talking about closing the door. You got to make sure the body lines are correct and everything else goes along with the situation of this picture right here to make it work properly. So back to the GTO. As you can see, these pedals, these are the original pedals, all right? And he's going to go ahead and put the original 4-speed back in it. But we had to take these pedals out. This is what I'm talking about. The pedal assembly had to be removed and had to be restored. Now, here's another example of restoring a car. He didn't have the emergency brake pedal assembly. He did not have that. So what we had to do with this is I actually tried to order an aftermarket one. We could not find an aftermarket one. They're obsolete. You can't find them. And they're not making them anymore at this time. So I had to literally go out there and find a used one to use in this vehicle and restore it so it would work properly. So there's another angle of restoring a vehicle of this style and kind, or should I say this action going on here, to the magnitude of being a pristine restored vehicle. That you have to sit hours and hours in front of a computer or possibly looking in parts books, finding the part numbers, finding the parts, and ordering the parts, waiting around for the parts to get here, and then when they do get here, you're in a disappointment because when you get that used part needs to be restored. So all this adds up into a situation of, I'm not just going to get my car painted, I'm literally having an automobile built from scratch. Now, here's the real kicker. Everything that I've shown you in my shop as of now, I have done by myself. No helpers, nobody doing anything. The only person I have here is my wife, coming out here and possibly holding a fender in place while I bolt it, or maybe in the end of the situation and getting ready to paint, helping me block sand the primer for paint and that type of little stuff. But as far as restoring the vehicle, it's me, myself, and I, and that's it. You know, we were talking about purchasing parts and miscellaneous nuts and bolts and brackets and having chrome plating done and everything else. This is a stockpile. These are parts that the owner of the Mustang over here, that Mustang right there, these are parts that the owner and I have been purchasing for several years to restore his car. And you can see we haven't even made a dent. We haven't even made a dent in all the parts that it is taking to actually refinish and restore this car to brand new. Okay, we're not even doing that yet. And we haven't even seen all the parts because this is more parts. This is more parts that actually go to that Mustang that we haven't even used yet. And we're talking, looky here, look at the rubber. Okay, a piece of rubber. What is that? $38, $40 for one piece of rubber for a wing window. This is the radiator rubber that goes on top of the cowling for the radiator support. And this is the seal. It costs $60, okay? Here is a felt channel kit set right here that goes to the doors. These are the window scrapers for the doors. That's like $180 just for that. So just this little pile of rubber that you're looking at is probably about $350 worth of rubber. And we haven't even gotten to this box of rubber parts. Look at all this, okay? Here's more rubber that goes on the car. All right, window seals, front and rear, door seals, antennas, master bolt kits, emergency brake cables, gas pedals, air conditioning parts, just, you know, on and on and on. He just purchased these right here. These were, I think these were $375. These are the inner vent covers of the interior that go in the back, $350, $400 for those. But we're not even done there, okay, on the interior. Let me go in here and show you this, and you're really gonna flip out. If we look at that box right there that I just had delivered a week ago, he ordered that 2 years ago, and what's in that box is the back seat to the Fastback Mustang. It's a complete folding back seat assembly. $2,000. $2,000. I think that's, or $1,800 or some crazy ass price just for the fold-up back seat that goes in the Mustang. So you're kind of getting the idea of what it takes to restore an old classic car. I don't care if it's a muscle car, a street rod, a lowrider, even a Baja Volkswagen. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you how much I've already spent on this car right here. And you can see it's not painted. It doesn't have custom interior. It's just got used seats out of a Saturn. No interior, it's gutted out. I've done all the work to this myself. When I got this car, it sat for 18 years in the backyard with a tarp over it. I have done everything that you could think to this car except rebuild the transmission and paint it. Everything. I've done the wiring. I've done the suspension. I've done everything. There's so much stuff that I've done to this car. It's unbelievable. And I also made it street legal. But driving this on the street, because that was my main goal, is I wanted to make it street legal so I can drive it. But I can't drive it on the street unless I wear earphones. But besides all that, to restore the vehicle to what you're looking at right now, I have spent $14,000. We're going to round it off to $14,000. And that's not counting my labor. That's just the money that I have spent on this vehicle to put it to where it is now. Yes, it does run and drive. I can drive it on the street. I can drive it Baja, four-wheeling, whatever I want to do. But it costs me that much money. And the labor, I wouldn't even know how much to say is in labor, because it was very extreme restoration to do this right here. I have a 1967 Camaro sitting on the other side of the shop. I think you kind of got a glance of it as we were looking at the body parts that we're going to bolt onto this car. We don't even know, I don't even know how much he's got in that car. We have pulled the engine out of that thing 3 times. The transmission that he's got is not compatible with the engine, drivetrain, and car that he owns. So we are now in a stumble to pull the engine out 4th time and redo what needs to be done. So restoring an old car is not scuff it down, paint it, and go down the road. The owner of the car texted me of this vehicle here a couple days ago and said, when is it going to be ready for interior? And I'm like, are you crazy? Did you know that the interior job on a car like this, that's basically the last thing you do. That's the very last thing you do. And this is why. Because to get it ready for interior, everything that you see on this car has to be done first. Everything. Everything on this car that you are looking at has to be done before any interior goes in it. We are now in the process, right now, of putting the headliner in the vehicle. The headliner will be in the vehicle possibly today, for sure tomorrow. And the interior job will be started. But the interior, I mean, that's the last thing you do. The very, very last thing you do after all the mechanic work, the paint work, the reassembly of the vehicle. No interior work should be done to the car until it is in basically a stage like this right here. And that's when it falls into the category, and I'm not cutting anybody down, I'm not saying anybody is stupid or ignorant or dumb, but the real point of the whole issue is is you don't know what it takes to restore a vehicle until you actually have done it by yourself. Now, the owner of this car, I don't know how much money he's got in this vehicle as of now. I would have to go look at my invoices and check it out. It really doesn't matter because it's not your business how much he's got in it. But I will say this. When I met this guy 6 years ago and we were looking at the other car that he had, because he had another car before this one, he asked me, how much is it going to cost to restore this car? And he had all of his relatives were standing around, and I said, you're going to spend at least $30,000 to $40,000 restoring that. At that time, he said, well, that's what it's going to take then. After we got into the car further and more extensively, we did not restore that car. The car was rotted and rusted completely to nothing, unrestorable. So he went out and bought this car. He went out and bought this. I don't know how much he paid for it, but when he bought this car, it basically kind of looked like this. If you can see inside it, it was full of parts. Nothing was bolted on it. All the body parts were taken off and junked up in the car, and it was in pieces. When I say in pieces, that means that everything isn't there. Remember the brake pedal, the emergency brake pedal? That wasn't there. All the chrome trim on this car wasn't there. I believe that the fenders that I got are not the fenders that came with this car, because the fenders, I don't even know if he got fenders with this car. I don't know. But when you buy a car like this in pieces, and I already see an issue going on with the headliner right here. I can already see that, and I'll show you that because this is a good example. If you look right here, here's a bow for the headliner. Here's another one right here. But we don't have, is that one? Okay, there's a far back one right there. I don't know if you can see that. So there's a bow right there. You got this bow here. Then you got this bow. But the front one is missing. We don't have a bow for the front. So for him to actually put the headliner in this, the factory original headliner, he's going to have to search and seizure, or I will, a front bow. And more than likely, you won't be able to buy just a front bow. If we actually find it, which I don't know if we will, we'll have to buy all of them. We'll have to buy every single bow. And that's what happens when you buy a car and you go look at it, and this is what it looks like on the inside, with all the parts stacked up inside, and the owner of the car telling you, oh yeah, it's all here, just put it all together. When in reality, it's not. So the owner has asked me, when he brought the car over a year ago, he asked me again. Now this is, remember, I've been dealing with this guy, the owner of the car, for 6 years. And he's known that the minimum that he's going to need for this car is $30,000. So when he brought it over last year, which is 5 years later, he asked me, how much money do you think I'm going to spend? And I told him, dude, to restore that car today, you're going to spend $40,000 to $55,000, maybe more. He was a little bit speechless at first, but then he said, I understand. You don't realize what it takes to restore an old car until you actually get involved in it and doing it. Getting on the internet on hotrodhotline.com or Cars Online and seeing all these cars and watching YouTube of all these people restoring cars and doing the job, you're not thinking of all the meticulous parts that you got to buy. I think this was $42 or $45 for a set of hinge pins and bushings for this car, and then the labor to put them on. You're talking every time that you look at this car or you purchase a new part. Here's an emergency brake cable. That was probably $28, $30. You got to buy 2 of them. The brake system on this car, that was like $2,800. If you want to restore a car, you really, really need to sit down with a professional, and you need to make sure that whoever you're dealing with is an honest person like me. I'm not advertising for myself, I'm giving you information. And you need to know up front what it is going to involve and cost. And I try to explain that to everybody that comes to my shop. I sit down and I go over it, and now I've been doing this for so long, when I get new customers in or new people that want stuff done, It's like I'm giving them a sales pitch because I have to tell everybody basically the same thing. It costs a lot of money to restore a car. If you are going to restore a car to this magnitude, or possibly the Mustang, you are going to spend a lot of money. And every year that you wait around, and every year that we jerk off and sit around on this car, it's going to cost you more money because parts are going up in price. Food is going up in price. Gasoline is going up in price. Mortgages and everything else going up in price. That means that the labor is going to go up in price. Just like insurance. When a shop like mine does insurance jobs, they have a thing called an insurance rate. And what that rate is a rate for the area you live in. They calculate it by what the cost of living is in the area you're living in, and the insurance pays you that much money. In this area right here, I'm going to tell you right now, the insurance rates are up between $70 and $80 a flag hour. A flag hour is what is calculated to replace this fender right here. And the flag hour might be 1.5 hours. So they're going to pay you 1.5 hours to replace that fender at $70 or $80. But when the cost of living goes up and everything else around you, so does the insurance rates. When I first started doing this, my very first insurance job was in Carrollton, Texas. I had a shop that was 800 square feet. It was one bay, concrete, cinder block walls. I can work on one car at a time. I loved it. I worked on that car. I didn't work on nothing else. And when that car got done, I'd move on the line. My very first insurance job, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing as far as calculating prices and buying the parts and making sure that I'm making a profit and all that. I didn't know. Thank God that the guy, the insurance adjuster that came over on the job, he was very nice and he was very helpful, and he walked me through the whole thing and showed me how to write the estimates and do everything. But the point is, the very first insurance job I ever did, the labor rate was like $23 a flag hour. That was back in the mid-'80s. So you can see from the 80s to now, it's gone up from 20 bucks all the way up to 80. And in some areas, it could be 90 to 100. Mechanic, insurance, the insurance mechanic rates, those are like $160 a flag hour. Now, I don't know why I've always wondered this. Why is the mechanical rate higher than the body rate when paint and body takes more work to do than mechanical work? I never did understand that. I think it should have been switched around, but that's life. So back to the story. Now that you know that, this is a very long video. I'm trying to tell you everything I can about this because a lot of people don't understand. I had a guy call the other day. He said, I got a truck body. I took it to 2 shops. I've got $13,000 in this cab. I want to send it to you so you can fix it. I said, it'll be cheaper if you buy another cab and start over. Because for me, to take that truck cab and fix all of the mistakes is going to cost you more money. You can buy 10 trucks for the price of what you will have in that one cab. That's another problem you have when restoring cars, is finding the right guy to do the job that's not going to screw you in your fucking ass. And I said fuck in the ass, fucking ass. That means if you take it to the wrong guy and he wants money up front, walk away. Do not give anybody money up front to restore a car. All you are doing is playing the Ponzi on giving him free money and him later telling you, come get your car and get it out of here, I don't want to fuck with it. And then you thinking that you might want to sue him, or possibly, I lost this money, fuck it, I'm screwed. If you take your car like this to get restored, don't give him any money up front, and if they ask for money, then just walk away. I don't give a shit if they got the best reputation in the world. Giving a shop money that is not going to work on your car immediately is stupid and ignorant, and you're the dumbass for doing it. I never take money up front. I only get money after I do work on the car. That's it. So there's really a lot of angles when it comes to restoring a vehicle, not just looking at YouTube videos and pictures and reading magazines and all this. The inside scoop, the bone marrow of really restoring a vehicle is a lot more exotic and extreme than you, the viewer, really knows. I can go in circles, I can go on and on about this, but I'm not gonna. I will say that to paint a car like that back in the 80s, to paint a car like that would have cost about $2,000, maybe $1,200 to $2,000. And that was people bitching and complaining that that was too much money. Now, to paint a car like that, to do all the body work, this doesn't include rust repair or metal fabrication or anything like that. This is only paint and body. That doesn't even include stripping it to bare metal. Doing the overall body work and paint on a car like that is approximately $15,000 to $18,000. If the car's in extremely good shape, you might start out at $12,000. I'm telling you people now, restoring old cars is not a cheap venture. Which brings us to this other situation before we go. When I initially met the owner of this car, he had his relatives outside. And I got a video on my YouTube channel, on this one or the other one, I don't know which one it's on. But I actually filmed going over to his house, meeting all his relatives, really nice people. All of them were really, really nice, including the owner of the car. And there was one particular person, I believe it was his uncle, and you know what his uncle kept saying? As we were talking about restoring that old rotted, rusted piece of shit, the one that he had before this one. His uncle kept repeating, "Don't do it, go to Pomona, buy one that's already restored. Don't restore that car. Go to Pomona. Go to Pomona. Buy a car that's already restored. Get a professional restoration job and go get one. Get one that's already done. You don't have to waste your money on this. Buy one that's already restored." And I actually agreed with him, because on a situation where you don't know what it takes to actually restore the car to the magnitude of what we're doing here, you are better off hiring a guy like me to go look at the vehicle in question and checking it out top and bottom, inside and out, and seeing if the car was restored properly, if it's not a Bondo buggy and all this other action that goes along with it, and paying a guy like me to do a vehicle inspection and buying one that's already done. You're better off doing that than spending thousands and thousands of dollars doing this if you don't have the money and you don't know what's involved. Once again, I am not talking about one in particular person on this video. I am using these cars and these customers for examples. Restoring a vehicle is a very, very, very extensive and expensive journey to do it right. And another thing I'm going to tell you is, if you take it to a shop that's got several employees, whatever price I give you, you can go ahead and bump that up 2 to 3 times. Because the guy that's got several employees, maybe possibly 4 to 10 employees, he's got to pay all those guys to work for him. He's got 7 to 10 times more overhead. He's got a bigger shop that he has to pay for. We didn't think about that, did we, guys? This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete. Restoring cars to the magnitude that the owner wants it to be, and taking a very long time to do it, because most customers run out of money and have to wait to get more money because they didn't realize it was going to cost that much, and also purchasing wrong parts for vehicles that don't belong in the vehicle that we're restoring, and have to tinker, toy, dick around, screw around, and fuck off to get the job done right over and over and over again, until one day the job is done and the car is fucking leaving my shop. And that, my friend, is the story of restoring old fucking cars.
Thanks for watching D.I.Y. Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.